Two Royals finished top five in Cy Young voting. We're going to talk about how big of a jump it was from 2023 to 2024 in this edition of Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you get your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast. We're on Odyssey and YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. If you're a first-time listener and you want to know a little bit more about me and this show, I am based here in Kansas City. I work at Sports Radio 810 WHB, doing some hosting, some co-hosting, and a little bit of producing as well. But when it comes to this podcast, when you click on this link, you know that you're going to be getting 30 straight minutes of Royals baseball. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, where new customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Well, it came out last night that Tarik Skubal of the Detroit Tigers was the unanimous American League Cy Young Award winner, but it was Seth Lugo who finished right behind Lugo in second place and just ahead of Cleveland Guardians closer Emmanuel Clase. And then right after Emmanuel Clase was Royals ace Cole Ragans, who finished fourth in Cy Young voting. Now, the way all of it was broken down, numerous guys got votes for certain spots out there, but when it came to the American League Cy Young race, again, all 30 votes went to Tarik Skubal for first place. Seth Lugo got 14 votes for second place, 9 for third, 3 for fourth, and 4 for fifth. And as for Cole Ragans, he got 3 second place votes, 6 third place votes, 6 fourth place votes, and 6 fifth place votes. So both Royals were very well represented in this one. A couple other guys that did receive votes in this was Corbin Burns, Logan Gilbert, Framber Valdez, Kirby Yates, and Yusei Kikuchi, and Cade Smith, actually, of the Cleveland Guardians, another bullpen arm. But this was, again, a battle for second place. Everybody who watched the entire season, and maybe even if you just watched the postseason, though it's not getting factored in for the Cy Young race, you knew that Tarik Skubal was going to win the Cy Young Award. It was always going to be a battle for second place, and there's no shame in getting second place to Tarik Skubal in this. He just had a phenomenal year for Detroit, and Detroit is nowhere close to where they ended up if it wasn't for Tarik Skubal. And now you kind of feel like the theme for Detroit going into the offseason of 2024 that, of course, goes into 2025, you got to find an extra starter or two to pair with Skubal, because you find, two frontline guys for that rotation, Detroit's going to be a very tough out in the American League Central. But I think a lot of people are saying that about the Royals as well, because they're going to be running back 2 of the guys that finished top 5 in Seth Lugo and Cole Ragans. And not to mention, Michael Wacha just received a 3-year extension for the year that he put in. So basically hitting on all 3 of your top 3 arms in the rotation is something that J.J. Picollo and John Sherman should be praised for, because these were all outside guys. These were not drafted and developed guys. These were free agents. These were guys that were acquired via trade, and the Royals should be hanging their hat on that, because it's very rare to see 2 guys in your own rotation finish top 5 in Cy Young voting. And I think today's segment is more so going to be about going over the jaw-dropping stats and comparing 2023 to 2024. I mean, we have seen teams really improve in a year-to-year basis. And when it comes to a rotation, you'll see usually one guy emerge as the front guy, the ace, the number one, the game 1 starter in the postseason. You usually see somebody like that emerge. But the Royals were able to have one guy emerge who, by the way, was dubbed the ace without ever pitching more than 100 innings in a big league season, and he lived up to that potential. And Cole Ragans carried his phenomenal season into the postseason. when they went after Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha, this was certainly the ceiling, it felt like. Maybe one step further would have been actually winning the Cy Young Award. But Seth Lugo was somebody that was barely a full-time starter. I mean, he had started games before in his career, but 2023 was really the first time that he gave it a full season look. And he didn't throw that many innings. So when the Royals brought in Seth Lugo, there was the hope that, man, he can be your workhorse. He can give you 170, 180 innings. But Seth Lugo surpassed that. He was a 200 inning guy. He became the first 200 inning Royal starter since Edinson Volquez was able to do it in 2015. So you're talking a nearly decade stretch that the Royals went without somebody that could log them that type of a workload, that it could get to the 200 innings. And that's always a threshold for pitchers. And when I talked to Seth Lugo in spring training and also then at the All-Star game, it kept coming up about these goals that he would set for himself. Because in surprise, Seth Lugo ominously said that, I've set goals for myself, and I'll tell you at the end of the year if I achieve those goals. Then I asked him in Arlington at the All-Star game if he achieved those goals, and he said, well, it's only halfway through, but we're pacing to do that. I had wondered if one of his goals was to finish as a finalist for the Cy Young Award. I had wondered if it was to be a 200 inning guy or to reach a certain amount of wins in a big league season. So, Seth Lugo to me went above and beyond achieving what really everybody was setting as realistic expectations. It's all right to be hopeful for a guy. Seth Lugo shattered every expectation, in my opinion, that the Royals and the fan base had set for him. So you go with those numbers of Ragans and Lugo, and then Michael Wacha comes in. He's throwing a lot of innings, and he might have gotten close to 190, 195 if it wasn't for an IL stint from getting hit by a comebacker off the bat of Luis Ariz in a series against San Diego, want to say back in June. So there's three guys right there that were able to throw a ton of innings. Cole Ragans had 223 strikeouts, which was top 5 in all of baseball. The jump they made from 1 year, and I understand there were different guys in the rotation, but it is staggering, right? Because the 2023 rotation only had 32 quality starts in 162 games. And that was something I kept a tracker of throughout the 2024 season, was the quality starts. I mean, I think that it's great to have a guy that leads the league in strikeouts. I think it's great to have a guy that can throw triple digits and really wow you. But when I'm evaluating a rotation, I think the best stat to use is quality starts. How many times are you giving your team a good start and putting them in position to win a baseball game? And this rotation was phenomenal at that. They finished with 76 on the year. That was second in the American League and third in all of baseball. That is the single biggest reason why the Royals had a 30-win improvement, because they had 76 quality starts compared to 32. I mean, nobody on the 2023 rotation could give you 3 straight good starts in a row. But Seth Lugo, just time and time and again, was just pumping out quality starts. I mean, he got damn close to the entire total of the 2023 rotation. And I remember after a game in, I want to say, maybe it was August. I think it was against the Diamondbacks. We went in the clubhouse. We talked with Matt Quatraro at the podium. And I had asked Matt Quatraro about this difference in the rotations. You go from one that featured 40-year-old Zach Greinke, Jordan Lyles, a struggling Brady Singer. I didn't say it in those words, of course, but you're bouncing around with Alec Marsh, Serpa's starting some games, Daniel Lynch's. There was never stability in that rotation. And this group was just so solid all year long. And Matt Quatraro said something along the lines of, well, you can't really compare them because it's a completely different group. And we can tip the cap to John Sherman and J.J. Piccolo for bringing in some of these guys because it transformed the team. And it's going to continue to transform this team moving forward, because how many times did you sit back in your chair, you're watching in a bar, you're watching at the game, and you just felt confident the Royals were going to be in that game because of who was on the bump? You're lucky to have 2 guys that can do that every 5th day. The Royals had 4 when things were really going well. For the entire year, they had 3, with maybe 1 month at the beginning of the year where Michael Wacha wasn't as solid. Then Michael Wacha became the most consistent arm the Royals had in the rotation. I mean, 76 quality starts is going to be able to do it. And 2 finishes in the top 5 for Cy Young Award, that is something you should feel very proud about. Brian Sweeney deserves his flowers for it. And the two guys that finished top 5, Michael Walker, Brady Singer, Michael Lorenzen, Alec Marsh, all those guys deserve praise for the type of year they put in for the Royals starting staff. And, not just Brian Sweeney, but Zach Bove, Mitch Stetter, guys that were constantly working with these guys and their coachability. I mean, it was said so many times throughout the season, the experience that Lugo and Walker was so impactful for all the young guys like Cole Ragans, for Brady Singer, for Alec Marsh. And I expect similar results, maybe not 2 top 5 finishes in the Cy Young race. But, I'm expecting another great year from this rotation because that's the strength of this ball club. And that's another reason why they were able to beat Baltimore in the wild card series. I mean, maybe you shouldn't parade around just winning one playoff series. The goal is to get to the World Series. But for this team, it was very apparent that in those 2 games, the Royals just had a stronger rotation. And they didn't even get the best starts from the entire group in the postseason, but knowing that you could count on those guys, you're not having to think about who's the game 2, game 3, game 4 starter. The Royals had plenty of options to go to and never really have to worry about what that guy was going to give them. Ragans was phenomenal. Lugo was really good. Waka was pretty good for the lineups that he had to face on the road. But again, the regular season was where they did all of their magic, where they had all of their skills showcased. And I'm glad the voters recognize that a little bit. But also congratulations to Tarek Skubal, who was just a freak this year. So fun to watch. Even when he's in the division, the Royals actually gave him some trouble in a handful of starts this year. But he absolutely was deserving of being the unanimous Cy Young winner on the American League side. And Chris Sale turning back the clock and winning it for the Atlanta Braves. All right, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, it is reported that the Cubs are looking to trade Cody Bellinger. I know that some Royals fans out there have taken a liking to Cody Bellinger. What do I think about that news? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Want to give a shout out to our only sponsor today in FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. For my pick, I'm going to the Chiefs and Panthers on Sunday, a noon kickoff. Panthers have a bad rush defense. I think it's 31st in the NFL. They allow a lot of running backs to get into the end zone, so I'll take an anytime touchdown bet for Kareem Hunt on Sunday for the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, as we continue to get closer and closer toward the winter meetings, we're going to be seeing reports about guys that are available, guys that maybe are going to be off limits, right? Untouchable. The Royals have already said that, Cole Ragans, Seth Lugo, Michael Walker, they're untouchable. That was a given, basically. I would throw Lucas Ursig in there as a guy that is untouchable, though bullpen arms can always be a little bit tricky. But when it comes to the Chicago Cubs, a guy that I really didn't think was going to be available was Cody Bellinger. But it was reported today that the Cubs are looking to move Cody Bellinger. And with these offseason rumors and these offseason reports, the tough part about it is that some of it is just smokescreen. Sometimes they say a player is available when they're not really available. Or sometimes when you hear that a trade is being discussed, it's not really close at all. It might be a phone call and it's a 2-minute conversation and then they hang up. With Cody Bellinger, I do think there is some truth to the Cubs wanting to move him, and here's why. Cody Bellinger is 29 years old. He's going to be owed $27.5 million in 2025 and has a $25 million player option for 2026. So you're looking at somebody who was fine last year for the Chicago Cubs, didn't really move the needle because the Cubs weren't that great of a ball club. But $27.5 million is certainly a hefty price to pay for a guy that I don't think put up near $30 million value. I mean, 266 average, a 2.2 B WAR in 2024. He had only 18 bombs, which was 8 less than he had in 2023 with Chicago, only drove in 78, an OBP of 325. We know the Royals are looking for high OBP guys, though back-to-back years with an OPS plus above the league average. Still, it was a 28-point dip from what we saw in 2023. I'm going to get this out in front right now. I don't see how it makes any sense for the Royals to go after somebody like Cody Bellinger unless the Cubs paid a large sum of his contract, right? If they're going to want a good return, which I don't know if Kansas City's even a likely suitor at this point. We know they're looking for outfield help or a corner outfield bat, somebody that could be in the middle of their order. Cody Bellinger could fit that mold. But to me, it's the money that's going to hang me up there. Because also you factor in a $27.5 million deal toward the salary in 2025, and then a $25 million player option come 2026. The risk you run is Cody Bellinger comes to your team. He doesn't play well. And he says, well, I'm not opting out. I'm taking that player option, which is $25 million. I think it's more so of a name than anything. The name Cody Bellinger is going to really raise a lot of eyebrows to contenders out there. You may look at the numbers he did last year and say, that's perfect for our corner outfield spot. He can play the outfield and he can play a little bit of first base. However, it's just too expensive for me and for a guy that's going to be 30 here not too long from now. And I understand that goes against what I've said about Taylor Ward, who's almost 30. Jonathan India's on the upper 20s part of his career. But Cody Bellinger is so much more expensive than those two guys. If you're going to go to Chicago and try to deal with them, I think Nico Horner makes perfect sense for Kansas City with the on-base numbers, with the flexibility, the speed. Cody Bellinger, I think a few years ago, when he was looking for a bounce-back deal, would have been a great idea to go for. Now, I don't think it makes too much sense for me. Not at least with the Royals. I mean, if the Cubs are going to move on from the Chicago Cubs, it might be somebody that either has those type of funds and they could just throw money at Cody Bellinger, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers. The Dodgers could have a reunion there with Bellinger. But for the Royals, I don't see it being a fit. Right now he's got a 2-year contract worth $52.5 million. Like I said, I think it's more so of the name than anything. The name is going to pique your interest. The idea of Cody Bellinger roaming the outfield at Kauffman Stadium and being in the middle of that order is exciting to think about, but then you factor in the money involved there. And I just think it'd be much more of a better idea to spend that type of money on maybe 2 pieces for your lineup. If you're going to go the free agent route and not the trade route, I'm not going to trade with Cody Bellinger or go for Cody Bellinger, trade with the Cubs and pay that type of money. And I'm also not really willing to have the Cubs pay a chunk of that salary, but then you're having to give up a good chunk of prospects. I mean, the Cubs aren't just going to be giving Cody Bellinger to anybody for whoever they can get. They are going to seriously evaluate what options are out there. And the Royals right now with their farm system, it doesn't feel like they're in a position to unload any top guys. And I think Cody Bellinger would take at least one of those top 5 guys that the Royals really, really like. I mean, that's been, I think, one of the best aspects of what J.J. Picollo has done with the Royals organization as the acting GM and president of baseball operations, is he's making the big league club competitive, but also not ravaging the farm system, right? There's no need to ravage the farm system when you can keep this group competitive in Kansas City. Because you think about it, from a fan's perspective, you don't care about the farm system when your team's winning at the big league level. If your team's winning at the big league level, hey, just keep adding talent through the draft. Every once in a while, develop a guy and turn him into a top 100, but you're not really worrying about prospects unless your team sucks. And the Royals had a sucky team for a long time. So you focused on the prospects, and a number of those prospects didn't turn out to be much. Now the Royals are starting to add some eye-opening prospects like a Jack Caglione, like a Blake Walters, like a Carter Jensen, a Blake Mitchell. And those are guys I think the Royals really want to hang on to. Ben Cooter, another name that I want to throw in there. So you have those prospects that could become consistent and good above average big league ball players. There's no need to unload those guys to go get Cody Bellinger, who I think you could go and get for much cheaper at a different team or in free agency or through trade, whatever you want to be. Like, I would take Taylor Ward over Cody Bellinger, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. I think I would take, though they don't play the same positions, I would take somebody like Jonathan India over Cody Bellinger. I would take Jock Peterson over Cody Bellinger. I would take Tyler O'Neill over Cody Bellinger, considering that it's just a lot cheaper to me. And you're not having to give up as much as I think the Cubs would be looking to get for a guy like Cody Bellinger. But hey, at the end of the day, they also may just be feeling teams out. Hey, let's spread some reports out there that Bellinger is going to be available for trade, and we'll see where it goes from there. If somebody comes in desperate enough, which I don't know why you need to be desperate enough by the winter meetings, it's not like there's any deadline you need to worry about. This could be the Cubs just seeing what feelers are, or sending out some feelers to see what could be available out there, and then in the end, just hang on to Cody Bellinger. But that player option too, that would scare me away a little bit, because on the off chance he doesn't play that well, no need to opt out of that deal. You might as well accept that the minute you don't start playing as well the middle part of the season. All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, Asa Lacy posted on his Instagram that he's once again working out and building for spring training. Is there any hope that Asa Lacy can stay healthy and get to Kansas City? We'll contemplate that next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. The last thing we're going to go over here is more so of a long shot in Kansas City. We've known that this player is a long shot. Maybe you're not even considering him a future piece in Kansas City anymore. I can't blame you because of the injury concerns, because of the overall numbers when he's been healthy. But I'll be honest, my curiosity is always going to be focused on Asa Lacy. I think with players that are no longer prospects, we'll just call them seasoned prospects, because I'm obviously more invested, more interested in the Jack Cagliones, the Blake Walters, the Carter Jensen, the Blake Mitchell, so on and so forth. But Asa Lacy, I think, is always going to have my curiosity as long as he's in Kansas City. And I don't know, maybe if he catches on elsewhere, I still might be a little bit invested. I think him and Adalberto Mondesi will always be my players that I'm curious about, because I want to know why it hasn't worked. I want to know the mental part about it. I want to know what their confidence level is at. Now, with Adalberto Mondesi, I just want to know what injuries he's still dealing with, if he's even contemplating playing in the big leagues again, because he's still in Boston. He might be a free agent now that I think about it. So his big league career is likely over at this point, unless he does finally stay healthy and catch on somewhere at the minor league level and make his way to the big leagues. With Asa Lacy, he does have an easier path, right? Because he's a pitcher. And if you catch on as a 25, 26-year-old minor leaguer, hey, all it takes is a really good year or maybe a couple good months for a team to give you a chance. Now, at the state of the Royals now, with them being a playoff team, with a team that expects to get back to the postseason, I'm not holding my breath, right? Don't get me even get me riled up on the idea of Asa Lacy having a chance to get to Kansas City this year. But I will say this. When we were in spring training, and I remember going over this while we were in Surprise about Asa Lacy, talking with guys from the pitching department, scouts down there, Asa Lacy had looked really good. That was the word coming out of the minor league camp, that they felt like they had figured things out with his delivery, that he was going to have a chance to make his way to the minor league level in 2024. And then before spring training could really even get going, he has Tommy John surgery. Just another setback to his big league career that has been very much, or big league career, professional career that has been a letdown. right? And I think the saddest part about this all is we're coming up on 3 years since he last threw a professional pitch, and the numbers have not been good at all in his minor league career. His ERA is north of 7. He's only appeared in 29 games since joining the Royals organization. I think the intriguing part about this, which is why I go back to the words curiosity and what Asa Lacy might become, is that he's going to be 26 in June. He's not on the 40-man roster. He wasn't added to the 40-man roster. And there is no genuine feel that he is going to go into spring training, dominate, maybe go to Double-A and look good. There's no feel of that. I haven't heard anything that, this is going to be the year, because why would I believe this is going to be the year when he's coming off back-to-back missed seasons, and the last time he pitched, he didn't look very good. But still, on his Instagram page, he's working out a little bit, seems to look good mechanically. Fastball still looks good from this video. I mean, as much as you can take away from that. But the good part about this, and I think the fun part about this, is what if he does get through spring training? Or maybe he doesn't even make much noise in spring training. Let's say he gets assigned to Double-A, and Asa Lacy looks good. He's not walking the house anymore. His stuff looks pretty polished. The strikeout stuff is there. That's always been constant with him. He can strike people out. He just can't throw strikes. And it's not really a matter of getting knocked around. I think in his minor league career, he just had a mental block of it, to be honest with you, because the talent's there. I don't really regret the Royals taking him in that COVID draft because it was a weird draft. A lot of guys were busts in that draft. And at the time, he was the best left-handed college pitcher out there. And when he fell to the Royals, I thought it was either Austin Martin or Asa Lacy. Austin Martin hasn't done much for the Minnesota Twins, certainly more than what Asa Lacy's done for the Royals. But when you have a pitcher, I will say that I'm still holding out hope that one of these years he's going to go on the mound again, whether it be in Double-A or Triple-A. I wouldn't even hate it if they left a spot for him in Triple-A if he was to get through camp healthy. If he gets through camp healthy and you just want to see what he has, I mean, he's 25 years old. What can he gain from going to Double-A? I think you just need to see if you have anything there. And then what happens on the 1% chance he does look good. Now you can have this great story and maybe even better, a beneficial piece of the bullpen. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, and I'm not saying that I am believing it's going to happen. First things first, he's got to stay healthy for longer than spring training. I just got to see him back on the mound more so than just an Instagram video. But I think we discussed this the last time we brought up Asa Lacy last year in the offseason. Hey, he's at the point in his minor league career where you don't need to slowly bring him along from level to level. I would say if you like what you see in spring training, what's the harm in putting him in AAA? Is there an abundance of relievers out there that he would be taking a spot from that you'd be crushed over? To me, I don't think there is. I would be interested. I would be interested to see what he looks like after 2 years of not pitching professionally. I really would. And if the stuff is there, all the better. And then you fully have my attention on what he could become. And maybe you just play the odds at that point. It's not smart to do when it comes to injuries, but the chances he misses 3 consecutive seasons, at that point, I don't know if there is even a big league career to pursue anymore. In fact, I think a lot of people at this point in time aren't even considering him a part of the organization anymore. I do think, though, that there is still a minuscule chance, a very, very small chance that there's something in the tank. Just going off of what I heard last camp. And last camp from the pitching department was he does look good. And they had worked with him and they had given him new things to work on to stay healthy. Sometimes it's just a freak thing. You could have great mechanics. You could eat healthy, exercise right, work out all off season, and you throw a few pitches and then you have a UCL tear. It happens in sports. He's been bitten by the injury bug. However, I always think first-round talent, and when it comes to pitchers too, like first-round talent is always going to have first-round talent. A lot of other things have to factor in. Can they stay healthy? Do they have the mental approach to it? Can they harness all of that talent? And Asa Lacy so far hasn't been able to. But when you still hear those words of encouragement, that confidence in a guy, a full year after not pitching, you think there's something there. I really do think that if he can stay healthy, there's a chance that we can see him out there on the bump and showcasing a little bit with what the Royals department was talking about. Now, like I said, minuscule chance, very, very small chance. And it's still, in my opinion, a low chance that he gets through spring training without any hiccups. That's just what I'm going off of the last couple years. However, I think the fun part about it, he's 25 now. There's no need to slowly bring him along in terms of levels. I'd put him at either AA or AAA and let him go. Let's see what he can have there. And what if it's that miracle situation like what Kyle Zimmer has? I mean, we can't say it's never happened before. Kyle Zimmer was in the Royals organization for a long time, couldn't stay healthy, couldn't put it together. And he honestly had a little bit of a stretch where he was a fine reliever for the Royals. They even tried him out as an opener at one point. Not saying it's the same path. I'm just saying I'm really hoping he can stay healthy. The mental part of it is there. And I wish him nothing but the best here. And going into spring training, maybe some of that confidence from the Royals pitching department is actually carried through with him staying healthy down in Surprise, Arizona. But time will tell. At least for now, we do have some video out there, some video proof that Asa Lacy is trying to make yet another comeback. All right, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, find Locked On MLB as baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, it'll be another Mailbag Friday, but until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.